Changing the gearing on your motorcycle can make a big difference for how it feels on both the street and the track, but it can also be kind of confusing. So this is a breakdown to help simplify it for you. The final gear ratio of your bike is simply the tooth count of the rear sprocket divided by the tooth count of the front sprocket. So in my case, I have a 43 tooth rear sprocket and a 15 tooth front sprocket. So that equals out to about a 2.87 gear ratio. If you're changing the rear sprocket and you want more top speed at the sacrifice of mechanical advantage, then you go with a smaller sprocket, something like this 41 tooth. If you want the opposite effect, where you're sacrificing some top speed to gain more torque, then you go to a larger rear sprocket. The front sprocket is the same concept, but just the opposite. If you want more top speed, you go with a larger front sprocket. If you want less top speed, but more mechanical advantage, more of that torque, then you go with a smaller sprocket. And here's the part that's a little bit tricky about gearing. You would think that changing one tooth in the front would be the same as changing one tooth in the rear, but that's not the case because the front sprocket is a much smaller diameter. So changing one tooth on the front makes a much larger difference than changing one tooth on the rear. So in my case, going from a 15 to a 16 in the front is going to make a much larger difference than, say, going from a 43 tooth rear to a 42 tooth. And you can double check that by doing the math of dividing the rear sprocket tooth count by the front sprocket tooth count. And as a general rule of thumb, they usually say that one tooth on the front equals about the same as changing 3 on the rear. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of motorcycle gearing and will help you out if you're thinking about changing the setup on your bike.